to Carl Froch's trainer, Robert McCracken. Robert, thank you for joining us on 5 Live Boxing. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
What are your reflections now on what happened with Carl on Saturday night?
They're the same as what I said to the blokes when I got out the ring on Saturday. Just one of disappointment, really. It was a very close fight, but when they're very close and you're in a foreign country, you're not going to get it, so that's not even worth discussing. It was very close. I just felt that Carl gave him too much time early, and he hurt Kessler every time he hit him. So it's one of disappointment, because I was with Carl today, and he knows he should have stopped Kessler, and that's not just idle chit-chat after the bout. He should have stopped Mikhail Kessler Saturday night. He hurt him a few times and never followed up. It's already gone, but I'm very confident if they box again, he'll stop Mikhail Kessler. But obviously, Saturday night's been and gone now. We've got to move on to Arthur Abraham.
Robert, Richie Woodall, who was with the boys on Saturday night, thought that maybe Carl had left something in the gym. Do you, with the benefit of hindsight, think that?
No, not at all. How could you leave something in the gym when he always trains for 10 weeks for every fight, and he has a week off before the fight? He doesn't do virtually anything a week before the fight, and the sparring wasn't heavy, to be honest with you. In fact, we maybe will slightly intensify it a little bit for the next one, but no, not at all. He's the world champion, and he prepares thoroughly, and obviously I train him, and we know exactly what we're doing. And listen, let's be honest, it was a very close fight, and if that was in Nottingham, Carl Froch's hand would have been raised, not Mikhail Kessler's. But like I say, we'll move on to Abraham. And another tough fight. I just think with Mike and Steve, just touching on Carl's defence, I think Carl's defence has been much improved in the last fight. And I thought it was more improved in Durrell as well. Don't think he got hit with a lot clean on Saturday night, considering it's being described as a war. He didn't really take a lot of stick. He got hit with a good right hand late on in the fight. But other than that, he didn't get hit with any heavy blows. And to be honest with you, I've been with him today. He's very fresh. He hardly has a mark on him. And obviously you saw Mikhail after the fight, and you wouldn't have thought he was the winner.
It's interesting you should say that, Rob, because I tend to agree. I think Carl was riding away from a lot of shots and was blocking a lot of shots. I think that he threw the fight away by, as you say, not stepping on it at that point in about 6 or 7, when we all thought, we're not all geniuses after the event, we were geniuses before the event. We all thought Kessler, even with the crowd urging him on, we all thought he was going to fade, and I think Carl did, and I think it was possibly too late, and Carl, I think, had been weakened by some of the body shots when he needed to step on the gas, because he did complain about the body shots at one point when we came out of the corner.
That's been raised, Steve, honestly. It wasn't. What it was a niggle. He was staying there too long, and every now and again Kessler would throw that nuisance right hand and just catch him on the top of the rib. But to be honest with you, it didn't weaken him. He didn't sustain his attacks. I think he showed him too much respect, and I think he was waiting for something more from Kessler that wasn't ever there. But you never stop learning in boxing. He's learnt a valuable lesson Saturday night. You can't leave it. You've got to throw the shots and make sure. And that's what obviously he'll be doing for the next one against Abraham.
And do you think? Robert, do you think that will be in a neutral venue now, Robert? Do you think that is the way ahead?
I think obviously it's economics in this tournament, but then economics will go out the window where Carl's concerned, because it was close the other night. Okay, Kessler got it. That's the end of it. But he certainly won't want to fight Arthur Abraham in Europe. He'll want it in England, and worse ways he'll want it in the States, because that's fairly neutral. And that's probably where it would end up if there's too much of a problem with putting it on here.
Why do you think, Robert, when you're away like that, it is so difficult to influence the judges? Because none of us would want to say that the sport at that level is crooked. So is it simply the crowd noise that influences the judges to mark it in favour of the home fighter?
I think it's there's a part of it's human nature, and there's a more darker side to it where you're not winning it. When you look at the 117, 111, I mean, let's be honest, you should never be allowed to judge a fight again. It's just obviously wrong. So it's just disappointing. But unfortunately, you've got to be honest. That's the state of play in professional boxing. If you fight away from home, doesn't matter if you're the world champion. They don't have to take the title off you. You have to make sure, and you have to dominate the home fighter, and you basically have to stop him. And that's not an exaggeration. That's the reality of how it is. But when you go, you know what the deal is, and we felt Carl would stop him, and in hindsight, he should have stopped him. But it's a lesson learned, and it's one that won't be repeated. But Hopkins, Mayweather, De La Hoya, how often do you see them fight abroad? The reality is they don't really want to, because they don't want to take a chance.
Robert, what about this level of punishment that Carl Froch's body is taking throughout this Super Series, and as Steve was saying, the 2 fights before it as well? What about this level?
I think Steve's right in with the Pascal and the Taylor fight. They were physically hard fights, and his defence weren't great at times, although that he was in with great fighters, and he got hit a little bit. But if you look at the Durrell fight and you watch it closely, and you watch the Kessler fight the other night, he gets hit with very, very few clean punches, and he's just, He's a lot fresher coming out of Durrell and Kessler than he was coming out of Pascal and Taylor, for sure. So there's no real wear and tear on him, and he's in his peak now. It's just fine lines, and he's got to go out there. He's got to get the tactics right for Abraham, which we will do, and he's got to execute it and throw the punches. When you throw the punches, you get the success. It's that simple.
And wherever it is, Rob, will he be ready for August the 21st? After those blemishes on the face on Saturday night?
I don't think it's so much the blemishes on the face. It's just where are we now? We're at May. Yeah. To be honest with you fellas, I think it's something Carl's got to think about for a week, because he's just had another tough 10-12 rounder. I just think it's a decision he's got to make by the end of the week, and he'll think on it. I'm fine with when the date is. I think it gives him 5 or 6 weeks before he's got to go into serious heavy training. So I think that will be enough rest time. But if it gets pushed back a little bit, I've no problem with that either.
Robert, thanks very much for talking to us, and we wish you the best with the training for Carl. Thank you very much indeed. Robert McCracken, Carl Froch's trainer.